or welfare by creating excessive traffic congestion, creating drainage problems, or seriously reducing light and air to adjacent properties. In response, though the zoning change would make the parcels available for more residential units than initially zoned for, thus creating additional traffic and could potentially seem inconsistent with the current housing development, including the existing single-family home in the middle of the lots, the increase would not make any substantial adverse impact. And then lastly, number 10, that the rezoning will not create an isolated or spot land use district unrelated to adjacent or nearby areas. In response to that, a general standard of rezoning is a contiguous zoning with an adjacent property. And the parcel to the north, which is Beaver Valley Elementary School, is zoned residential medium density, which is what the applicant is looking to rezone it as. And the burden of proof is also a requirement, and the applicant shall carry the burden of demonstrating that the land in question should be rezoned and that the advantages resulting from rezoning would outweigh any disadvantages that would result. All applicants are advised that there is no right to a change of land use. So in addition to any pertaining information that I just presented, the applicant has the opportunity to speak on their own behalf in demonstrating the burden of proof. And to date, staff has not received any comments during the notice period regarding this proposed application for a final plat. So in conclusion, it is staff's view that this rezoning proposal would not produce an overall adverse impact in the subdivision. The Planning and Zoning Commission approved the recommendation for City Council to approve the rezoning of the 4 parcels with the following conditions. Number 1, all applicable requirements and processes are met within section 16.9 of our land use code for the land subdivision within 6 months of the rezoning approval. Number 2, any stormwater concerns are addressed to the satisfaction of the Public Works Director. Number 3, ensure no existing covenants, conditions, and restrictions for the subdivision would prohibit the proposed construction. And in light of that one, we have done research and have not come across any covenants, conditions, or restrictions for phase 2 of this subdivision. Any questions?
Tyler, are these going to be separately deeded units on these 2 lots?
They will. So,
We've got a subdivision process completed.
correct. Yeah, they wanted to find out they can rezone it before they went any further, the subdivision. Good question.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Would you like to speak?
My name is Jesse Estrada Jr. with Jace Construction, and my father's sitting back here, senior. And we wanted to bring something to brush that would give more options for mainly that, you know, with people that we've spoken to cater more to the retired couples that are looking to downsize, and we saw an opportunity to do that there. So we're also have 2 other lots in that neighborhood. That one I just turned in some plans for permit to build a single family home down the street.
Do you know what the price point is going to be on these units?
So what we're thinking there, anywhere from 260 to 280. We still haven't pinpointed the exact number there, but that's what we're thinking.
Council, any questions? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Are there any public comments? Any council questions, concerns? I guess the only concern I have is that house in the middle. You got 2 places coming on the other side. I have a concern with that, but I don't think, we haven't had any contact with that homeowner.
Well, they received the mailing notice.
But no
No
objection.
comments or anything.
Any other questions, council? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Entertain a motion to either approve or deny the rezoning of the 4 parcels with the conditions identified by staff.
I make a motion to approve the rezoning of the Westwood Second Edition with the conditions as presented.
Okay, we have a motion to approve with the conditions. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, discussion? Andrea, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Decker?
Yes.
Counselor Lundstrom?
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan?
Yes.
Counselor Sherman? Yes. Mayor Day?
Yes. Okay, moving on to C, first reading of ordinance number 876-19 and ordinance amending Article 2 of Chapter 10 of the Brush Municipal Code to establish smoke-free city-owned parks and public places. Bo?
We got a draft ordinance, I believe, from Akron on the work that they did out there. And I think this is a follow-up to a presentation that we had from, I don't remember the name of the group, a smoke-free group that wanted.
Junior Main Street.
Thank you. That wanted, this smoke-free provision added to our municipal code. And, I've worked over this ordinance to make it comply with what we have been presented to us. And what we're doing is to create smoke-free zones on city-owned properties. So we're not imposing this on any other public entity like the school district, for example. And we are accepting from those city-owned properties the campground at 400 South Clayton and the golf course at 2301 Mill Street. And this would otherwise apply to all city-owned public areas that are shown as examples in Part B, subsection 1, to include playfields, recreational areas, service areas, parks, and other locations as determined by the state.
Okay.
I want to emphasize, city-owned land, excluding the campground and the golf course.
Okay. All right. Do we have a counselor that would like to introduce the ordinance by title?
Figure out how. So we gotta introduce I'd like to introduce the ordinance number 876-19, an ordinance amending Article 2 of Chapter 10 of the Brush Municipal Code to establish smoke-free city-owned parks and public places.
Okay, we have the ordinance introduced. Do we have a motion to approve the ordinance on first reading and publish in full in the Brush News Tribune?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 876-19 on first reading.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second? Discussion? Andrea, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Becker?
Yes.
Counselor Lundstrom?
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan?
Yes.
Counselor Sherman? Yes. Mayor Bain?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to D, second and final reading of ordinance number 877-19, an ordinance amending Chapter 11 of the Brush Municipal Code by adding a new Article 5 establishing rules for the public campground. I've got Chief Boss for that one.
I have nothing new to add from the last time, but thank you
Okay.
very much for your consideration.
All right. Okay. Moving on, do we have a motion to either approve or deny the second and final reading of the ordinance?
I move we approve the second and final reading of ordinance number 877-19.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Andrea, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Lundstrom?
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan?
Yes.
Counselor Sherman? Yes. Mayor Bain?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Becker?
Yes.
Okay, 5E, intergovernmental agreement between the City of Brush, Colorado and the East Morgan County Hospital District. Monty?
Okay, this IGA between the city and the East Morgan County Hospital District, this is something that we have been working on for a few years with the hospital district. And essentially what it is, it's a large digital marquee that they would like to put in right off of Harvard Street, right where the new parking lot is for the hospital. Before you get to the highway, there's a little open grassy area. That's what their intentions are. They've showed us a few different designs of what it would look like. It's a rather expensive one because of the size of it, and they also want to landscape around a little bit, so it's going to look really nice. For 2 or 3 years, we've had in our budget money to put towards it, so it's not anything really new for us as far as our budget. But we wanted the IGA in place, just explaining that we're going to contribute financially to the project, which our financial contribution is $20,000. And then in exchange, we have the ability to, through the hospital, put on our community events different things that we can post on there. Whether it's recreation, something special unique we're doing, Oktoberfest, things that the Chamber of Commerce are doing. It's another way just to get the word out there where we don't have to hang the banners across the highway, those types of things. So it's actually under budget as far as our budget goes, and it's already been approved by council. At the IGA, we're asking for an approval on that so that they can get started on the project and we can release those funds.
And Monty, is $10,000 one-time,
$20,000.
$20,000?
It's a one-time, and I believe it's good for 20 years, Bo,
I just read that date. What
or
is it?
2026, or what was it?
2026, yeah, so that's, it's not 20.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It is 7 years.
Oh, hold on a second. Oh, so I'm glad we discussed that because I guess if you're gonna approve it contingent upon us relooking at that date, because I thought it was a longer period than 7 years.
So does
So let me
that
do-
affect us being able to use the sign?
Well, that's what I'm
Is-
gonna double check. I thought it was 20 years in my head, but
Okay.
I just wanna double check that date.
Okay, so you're looking for a motion that would be contingent on that date being a certain number?
We'll work with them with that regardless, but I might administratively, it might be a small change we make there before the
Okay.
final one's approved.
Okay.
I'm glad you caught that.
Do we have a motion?
I move we approve the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Brush and the East Warren County Hospital District contingent on that date.
Okay. Do we have a second? Second? Discussion? Andrea, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Counselor Sherman,
Yes.
Mayor Bain,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Counselor Becker,
Yes.
Counselor Lundstrom.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to 5F, city incentives for central school. Monty?
Okay, in your packet, there are actually two documents. One's a memorandum from the city administrator requesting that the council approve utility fee waivers for a period of 2 years in support of the central school project. Also, there is a letter from the Chamber of Commerce executive director, requesting some incentives. Essentially, what is happening is there's an RFP going out to developers to somehow put in proposals for how they would develop, improve Central School. And part of that RFP package, we would like to put in some incentives from the city to help encourage that. So it's actually an incentive that's a small incentive right now, but if they come back with a really good idea, a really good use for the building, the council can add to it. So we just would like this in that document and approved by council so that whoever's looking at it, it's just one more incentive to encourage them to do something with Central School. This also is part of our city council priorities the last few years. Almost every year we've had it in there as help support the Central School Initiative that the chamber's taken on. So it would help in that regards as well.
I have
Okay.
a question.
Go ahead.
If I'm on the central school committee, do I need to recuse myself or can I vote?
Probably should recuse.
You don't have any financial incentive. Well, let Bo, I defer.
I mean, I'm just here
As a member of the foundation? Is this an
No,
advisory
I-
board?
I'm not on the foundation board, just the
I think you can vote on it and you can release it.
Okay. Do we have a motion concerning city incentives for central school?
I'll make a motion to approve city incentives for Central School.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. We have a second? Larry, second. Okay, any further discussion? Andrea, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Sherman,
Yes.
Mayor Bain,
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Counselor Becker.
Yes.
Counselor Lundstrom.
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to 5G, glass recycling contract. Dale?
Thank you, Mayor. In your packet, you should have a proposal from Clear Intentions LLC with the city of Brush for doing glass recycling. Clear Intentions reached out to the city probably about a month ago asking if we would be interested in utilizing their services. They would bring down a glass roll-off container and and then once it got full, they would come and pick it up. The fee would be $355 for every time they pick it up. Having done just quick math over it, over and above what it would cost for us to dispose of the glass in the landfill, this would only amount to about an increase of our disposal costs in the neighborhood of $220 a year, based on their projections. Right now, we do offer the single stream recycling, but one of the biggest contaminants that we have with the single stream is glass. One glass bottle can contaminate an entire bale, and it's rejected at that point. So this will be giving our citizens an opportunity to dispose of that glass in a different manner. They recycle 100% of everything that they get. They cannot take windows because there's metal, and sometimes they're laminated. They cannot take light bulbs because of the metal and potential for mercury contamination. They cannot take china. They can't take Pyrex. They can't take any of those types of items. They definitely don't like trash. You don't have to sort it. Just put it in there. They'd like to see mayonnaise jars being cleaned, obviously. But this would be an opportunity to help expand our recycling as we have been in the past. And so, because this is a multi-year contract, it is something that council will need to approve and the mayor to sign. Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Any colored glass?
Yes, any colored glass. You don't have to sort it out at all. In fact, some of the colored glass that they have, they actually separate it out and rework it, and they sell it out on Etsy and eBay and Amazon for crafts and such. A lot of the other beverage bottles, they send back to bottle manufacturers for reuse. So,
Would that roll up be over here?
exactly. It would be
Okay.
over here, right where your existing
the recycling.
recycling is, yes.
Okay.
So would that be something that we would select for on recycling, on Wednesday's recycling day, or would it be something that people would have to go and recycle
At this
themselves?
point, people would have to actually bring it down and recycle it here at the city. We haven't expanded the actual single stream and glass pickup separation or anything like that as of yet.
People would like that.
Yeah, I've had people asking about, that's the one thing that Brush wasn't doing, was the glass, so that,
I've heard a lot of those comments.
yeah. All right, thank you, Dale.
Right.
We have a motion concerning glass recycling contract.
And if we approve the glass recycling contract?
Okay, we have a motion to approve, do we have a second? Second, discussion? Andrew, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Bean.
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Counselor Becker.
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom.
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan.
Yes.
Counselor Schumer.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to finance.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve city expenditures from May 13th through May 27th of 2019 totaling $190,620.64.
Okay, we have a motion to
Question
approve.
for you. The bill list in the packet says May 30th.
We got two.
Oh, you got two?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a motion to approve, do we have a
A second.
second? Second, discussion? Roll call vote.
Mayor Bean.
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Counselor Becker.
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom.
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan.
Yes.
Counselor Schumer.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to 6B, finance.
Another, I'd like to make a motion we approve city expenditures from May 27th of 2019 through June 10th of 2019 totaling $249,867.05.
Okay, we have a motion to approve,
A second?
have a second? Discussion? Roll call vote.
Mayor Bean.
Yes.
Counselor Baker. Yes. Counselor Becker.
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom.
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan.
Yes.
Counselor Schumer.
Yes.
Okay, at
Let me
this,
point out again that both of these sheets show May 30th.
they have the wrong,
The first sheet shows May 30th as the termination date. The second sheet shows May 30th as the commencement date.
Will we email the first ones? Because we had to sign them. Yeah, we should have sign them.
Well, I'm just concerned that we've got a list that's dated differently than the motion.
What we can do is get these approved at the next meeting as well. When Joanne gets back, we'll have her just double check all the dates and everything, and if we have to make an adjustment, just bring it back next meeting.
And that should say May 27th.
We should say May 27th for the first approval, and then the second approval would be the meeting date of May 27th.
Well, this one has, so the June 10th one is right there. Oh, May 27th.
Yeah, one of them should have the exact date.
Both of them just say May 30th.
This will then be in the just because with a bar and restaurant, we need to.
And if we need to adjust them in the next meeting,
Okay.
Okay.
I think it brings in a whole pile of bills for each of those periods. And we have an inconsistency in dates that we need.
The first, so the. And then it should be.
Okay, at this point, we had scheduled earlier in our meeting a presentation by Morgan Strong. I see those participants are here, so let's go ahead and allow them to come up and give their presentation.
Good evening, guys. I'm Erin Goff. I'm the Brush board member on Morgan Strong, and just want to start off with thanking you guys for giving us time to come and talk with you guys tonight and allowing us to present. Just want to go over our goals for tonight. We just want to go over our history and what we're doing and why we're doing it, what our current progress is, and what we've accomplished.
So I provided, a PowerPoint file extension and a .pdf if that would be better.
That's ours.
This one, was created by Greenplay.
That's ours.
Yeah, that's ours.
Oh, this one, has some, I apologize, Andrea, that's got some financial stuff tucked in the back. So yeah. So if you go back to that email, it's, gonna be we can pull up the PowerPoint or the second PowerPoint or the PDF file. They're gonna have the same information. Do you guys have the copy of the slides in your packets tonight?
The service plan, we have a copy of the service
Yeah.
plan.
We have,
Cool.
we have this like.
Oh, wait a minute.
Blank.
You sent one out that was called Brush City Council Work Session. Is that the one?
Yeah, that's the one.
Those are ones that we just had from old meetings. These are the two she sent us.
Oh,
I'm gonna peek at that email real quick, Laura, see if, or, Andrea, excuse me, to see if it's in there. So we, it's got like a logo of Brush on it. Well, we will, yeah, we'll keep going. So in that one, it's got, and I CC'd, yeah, Monty and Aaron. It's, I can resend it really quick right now, so it's at the top of your inbox, but it's the one on the bottom is the last one. So Kenny, do you have access? I can even, that was just a one pager. You guys are super visual. It does have some cool pictures of some of your residents at our public meeting. Who could I email it to really quick for, as far as access to that laptop?
What's the name of the document? Cause it might be in our packets.
It's, yeah, Brush
Brush
City Council Work
Session.
yeah, I have it.
So we can get it to the press
What
too
pages
if you
is
want.
in the packet?
Okay,
It was
okay.
a different, it wasn't in the packet, it was the email that.
Oh, okay, it was an addendum.
Does it look,
Yeah, it was.
we're gonna get it figured out. Does it look, does that look familiar?
Yeah. Yeah,
I'll put it on up here. So as long as you have your eyeballs on it, it's okay if it's not up here. So just forgive us if we look down sometimes, not up and out as much.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you so much, Andrea. Okay, so, sorry, yeah.
No.
Dive into goals, Erin.
So back to that, we're also wanting to discuss, the benefits of a recreation district for Brush. And, finally, discuss the next steps to move forward together.
So our organization, we formed back in at the very beginning of 2018 because, obviously, none of us are recreation district professionals, so we had to kind of figure out from scratch, how do you, kind of do the background research to figure out why recreation district could work for our county. So our slogan is everyone plays, because one thing that we, really value as an organization is, to include everyone. Doesn't matter where you live in the county, that, we wanna connect you to recreation. And then, our mission statement, connecting Morgan County residents of all ages to fun, affordable, and expansive recreation. So that next slide shows you our organizational structure. So we have our board, and we have members on our board from all over the county. We have Hillrose, Brush, we have, Fort Morgan, we have some unincorporated county, we have Weldona, and we have Wiggins. So we wanted to make sure, when we kinda did that early research, when this kind of conversation has come up in the last 20 years, one of the complaints was, you left Wiggins out, or, you left someone out. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't make that same mistake, and we had, voices from all over the county on the board. Then we've got, Morgan Strong Cities, where we've been trying to work as collaboratively as we can with elected officials and, city staff in the whole county. And then our partners are some of our nonprofit organizations that serve the county that have been with us for the whole way, like Fort Morgan Poultry's United for Progress and One Morgan County. We started to work with the Family Center and some other groups that serve families. And then, the bottom, that's Team Morgan Strong, so we have close to 80 different people who are part of that, and that also represents, all over the county, people who aren't on the board formally, but they really want to be involved in different ways as far as, learning more at meetings, sending emails out to, different people for, I'm trying to think of some of the different campaigns we've had. We just finished, an art and essay contest, so we reached out to all the school districts, so some of the people on Team Morgan Strong helped us disseminate those to the schools. So that's Team Morgan Strong. And so that's our organization. So quick background on that next slide. I already told you, we officially became a 501c3 in, February of 2018, and, built that leadership team for our board. And the longest part was just making sure we had, financial stability. So as an organization, we didn't have to ask cities for money. We know everyone's really tight, so for us to make sure that it was feasible, we had, we did our own fundraising, through foundations, and the citizens in the county really wanted to make sure this could happen. So, our main funders, our main local funder is the Doms Talton Foundation, and then the Colorado Health Foundation, kicked in the biggest change for us, to make sure we could hire the right experts. And we had some money from the Colorado Trust through Fort Morgan Poultry's United for Progress. And then, so that next slide, so all of those wonderful donors were able to help us hire these experts. So we really did this in the right way, in a really thorough way. So you might recognize Greenplay on that slide, and that was really intentional, obviously, because we wanted to make sure that the same person who worked here to help create Brush's Recreation Master Plan was the same person that helped us with the planning that we're doing on a county level. And George K. Baum, they've done work locally in Brush as far as the financing side. So we want to bring them in really early on in the conversations to make sure, that, and we hear this all over the county, we don't need to build something insane, right? We don't need to have something that we can't sustain over time. We need something that's really smart and sustainable. So that's why George K. Baum has been such a good asset to our organization to help us on the funding side. And then, Collins, Cockrell & Cole, they're just, our law firm, and they make sure we don't break any laws. And they also helped us, to build our our service plan. And the service plan, that I think you said you've received in your packets sometime along the way, is a formal document that we created to give to the county commissioners. And that's just, and you've probably seen them before when, if you were an elected official at the same time that East Morgan County Library District was created. So any special district has to create this formal document called a service plan to kind of show what's the area that you'll serve, what's your financing plan, all of that. So we had to do that also for our process as well. So the next slide just talks about our needs assessment, and this one was, a really fun process because it took us all over the, county. We got to spend a lot of good time in Hill Rose, time in Waldona, time in Wiggins, talk to families from Hoyt, you know, just really get to know, the county and the types of things that they currently use in recreation and the types of things that they like to do, and kind of why recreation is so vital for their families. So that just takes you through, kind of our methodology and some of the timeline that we did for that needs assessment. I think I saw Lance has some printed out, that needs assessment, right? Yeah. And we can, whatever, if all of you do want a hard copy of that needs assessment, it's a great read, but, we're really happy to provide that for the council as well, if you wanna kinda dig deeper. So yeah, you can email me directly or, yeah, let Lance know, but, so if you don't wanna incur those costs, cause it's full color, we made sure it was full color, but right now we've just, distributed it in, PDF form digitally, but we're really happy to print if you guys are paper people. I know sometimes I need paper to make notes and things. So yeah, our public meetings were one of the most important parts of that needs assessment because it was boots on the ground, really, you know, conversations knee to knee with people in the community. So Erin's gonna go through and talk through the meeting we had here in Brush and just some of the different things that surfaced from there.
So we held our public meeting actually at the library. We wanted to hear from the community what they felt the strengths and weaknesses were in current programming, what the current strengths and weaknesses were in the facilities that we currently have, opportunities for future programming and facilities, any key values to consider when creating a rec district in Morgan County, how to identify who is underserved, and how to finance our vision. Pictures there of our night that we had and that we spent together. We had a lot of really great discussions and ideas that came out of that. Down underneath here, the current recreation programming and facilities there, you can see there. So participants use lap swimming, swimming lessons. These are all things that what we use and that we feel are great. Town and Brush and Brush School District work well together, so these are all positives that we felt, that the community felt is working well. Some participants like the predictability of the programming in Brush, and others want new innovative programming. They noted that the Fort Morgan Armory is too small. So future recreation programming and facilities, they discussed improvements to the Brush Pool, like changing new areas, like, is that? Changing areas, okay, I wasn't sure if that was like the entire area, sorry, I was reading that wrong. Discussed building a, social space where teens can hang out, desire more cooperation between towns and combine so there are more numbers for leagues. Desire for indoor swimming pool, water slide, lazy river, net for volleyball. Discussed indoor amenities like trampoline, jumping spaces, ball or foam pit, rock climbing, indoor paintball, laser tag, indoor track, and music area.
That was a really fun group. There's
lots of ideas.
Yeah.
So also for future programming, so new organized sports like dodgeball, water polo, gymnastics, increased adult classes, Zumba, yoga, provide babysitting options, adaptive programming with special needs kids, for special needs kids, and develop trails for more baseball fields and Brush. So common themes across the county were desire for indoor swimming with leisure and lap swimming, improve current facilities like baseball fields and outdoor swimming pools, more coordination between towns to improve numbers for leagues and registration process, include smaller towns like Hill Rose, Waldona, Log Lane Village, and Snyder in planning, and include transportation, a priority to help connect the youth and seniors to recreation. And the common themes that we found were desire for new programming like art, cooking, dance, and music, grade fundraising for sustainability and increase opportunities by combining small taxes, municipal funding, and aggressive grant writing and affordable user fees.
Cool. So those last two slides that Aaron covered. It's not exhaustive, and there's gonna be more information in that, the actual needs assessment document. But it was really fun to hear, that towns do want, like residents want towns to work together. They wanna see that coordination, especially, when you've got families that live in Fort Morgan, but they send their kids to Brush for school, or you've got someone that lives in Brush, but they work in unincorporated county. We've got a lot of this intra-county travel already for how people live, work, and play. So it's really tough when you get something home in your Friday folder as a parent from school, and it's got deadlines for one city, but you don't even live there, you know? So, it was really fun to hear from their own voices that, hey, it'd make so much sense if there's one registration system for everyone. It'd be really awesome, as far as for, communication and coordination, so that was great. Were there any surprising themes that you read when you were looking through those slides? For those common themes, anything that stuck out to you?
Probably the surprising thing for me is your service plan. I got a copy of your service plan, and when I looked at the capital projects, the way they're scheduled to be, I was shocked. And the service plan is saying that Fort Morgan, total capital was $56.3 million, with Fort Morgan slated to get 40 million of that. Was a huge red flag to me. That's 71% of the money from this tax increase would go toward building this recreational center in Fort Morgan. And it does show, there's something wrong with service plan too. There's a couple of areas where you conflict with what you're saying. One part of the document says that Wiggins and Brush will each get a field house. In Exhibit B, it says Wiggins will get a 24,000 square foot field house and Brush will get a 12,000. In Exhibit C, it says the opposite.
Okay.
And that would be, so if Morgan gets $40 million, the one I'm looking at, Exhibit B, says Brush would get 5 million and Wiggins would get 10 million. So then I thought, okay, let's take this based on population. We take it based on population. Brush is about half the size of Morgan. So I would expect that about, twice as much money going to Morgan, but not 4 times as much. And what really bothered me is when I took the population of Wiggins is 800 people, and we're at 5,000, and they're slated to get a field house twice the size as Brush. I need some explanation as to how we came up with those numbers. Or how
So, yeah, Mayor Bain, we just need to fire our attorneys is what it turns out.
I
So we
mean,
did,
which one was right though? On the
So,
field house size?
with our timeline to get things ready to go, for the ballot in the fall, there's some things that, so it's inaccurate as far as the square footage for the field house in Brush and then the
Okay.
field house in Wiggins. When we first pushed out the survey, and I have copies of the survey if anyone on, council didn't receive theirs, there's not everyone, and we tried our best to get to everyone, but, some people didn't update their address up on the county side. Anyway, so, what I'm asking you to do is to be patient with us because, we could definitely do we could divide the county into thirds and just do population based on that with the funding. We could absolutely do that. These numbers were just, we needed to present something formal to the county commissioners to say, if this was the first round of projects,
Right.
and then the 40 million, I have to reference that because I didn't bring my own copy of the service plan because I want to spend more time on, the citizen side and the work we've done up to this point. But, some of the numbers we looked at for the, with working together with the city of Fort Morgan has been, challenging because they had some things slated for an indoor field house, like, over the past couple of years too. So we are having to do some really fancy, flexible stuff to figure out how this is gonna work long-term. But there's not a shovel in the ground, and we were able to work with Brush to make sure we got a question on that registered voter survey, so we could ask if they would prefer the outdoor pool here to be redone as the first project. So so that is definitely
But the
concerning.
capital plan, they didn't mess up with the capital plan. The numbers I'm quoting is what's going before the commissioners during that hearing, correct?
So the capital plan is to make sure that if that's the pie in the sky thing, so, and I will follow up with you, I'll talk to the attorneys and make sure like, cause they assured me up to this point that there's lots of flexibility with the numbers. We just have to prove that if we fundraise, just that our financial plan, if we just, instead of separating it out, if we just look at it as a big bucket with, our proposed model with the 0.75 sales tax, that we would be able to sustain that.
Well, see, and the service plan has gotten out because I'm getting calls and I'm having people stop by my house to drop service plans off. So that perception is already out there that Morgan is gonna get 40 million, Brush is gonna get 5, Wiggins is gonna get 10. So that's out there. So that's something you're gonna have to work on. The other question I have, and maybe you talked about director districts, you're gonna have a 5-member board, and that board is gonna be very powerful in allocating money, and I understand that. Each community had a member on the board. Brush has one, Morgan Log Lane, Wiggins has one, and then I think Hill Rose and Snyder. And then there was an at-large district, and I'm assuming that gives somebody the chance to run for that board that might live outside one of the communities. Is that the thinking there?
Outside of the county or?
No, not
like
outside the county, but
unincorporated?
outside of Morgan and Brush, and it's an at-large, so I'm assuming it's county-wide. Anybody in the county could run for that 5th seat?
Yeah, so, we just heard back from, our local judges and how we originally set forth those, jurisdictions for the board members. The population sizes, like you mentioned earlier, like Wiggins seems so tiny, so our first go at it, the judge is gonna kick it out because it's not even close to equal. So,
Right.
so I just got an email earlier today that kinda shows a different, Brush will obviously still have one, but we're gonna have, to make the populations close on these
Right.
5 seats, and the reason we chose 5 over 7 is if we have 7, we have to keep 7 forever. And
Yeah,
it's-
I understand.
And yeah, over time, it's really hard to keep 7 people interested.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it's hard. It's like the service that you're doing right now to serve the city of Brush. It's hard work. And so, yeah, we are down to 5, so we're gonna have 3, and I can send this information to you as a follow-up. And Brush will still be on one of those 3, but they're gonna also, encompass like Hill Rose. And then there's gonna be 2 at-large.
Okay, so who can run for an at-large seat?
Anyone who lives in the county.
Okay, there's another red flag for me, and I'll tell you why. If anybody from the county can run for those seats, Morgan if you talk about community loyalty, Morgan has 11,000 people. That means someone from Morgan could run for the at-large seats and have a bigger voter base than any of the other communities. So I could envision that this board could be composed, and you're also gonna have to farm out some of your Morgan people toward Wiggins. They only got 800 people, and for a judge to allow that to come in, you're gonna farm those people out there, which means that actually for the Wiggins seat, somebody from Morgan could win it, the way you draw those districts. And it's a game Republicans and Democrats been playing for years, but to get this thing equal, you're gonna have to segment out a lot of Fort Morgan into these other areas, which gives people from a Morgan a much greater voice on this board, and I don't think they could override the population of Brush, but I could see how Morgan could run 4 out of 5 seats of that, and that's a huge red flag for any of the other communities, that Morgan would get the bulk of everything that's going on here. And and I've had businesses calling me, not necessarily wanting an increase in sales tax, but especially not if there's nothing in the document that says, we would like to make sure that at least the revenue that is generated from the Brush area goes back to the Brush people. And this document doesn't speak to that at all, so that's another thing I'm concerned about.
So having something in place, as the organization is formed, that dictates that this third, because we've gotta, like, we love Brush, but we also love Hill Rose, so we've gotta think in, like, if you think about the boundaries for East Morgan County Library District,
Yeah.
if you draw that map, we could have something there that ensures, there is a lot of flex. Nothing has been done like this in the county before, so, and we did hire as many experts as we could round up, but yeah, I hear all of your concerns. I'm gonna make sure I write them all down so you can feel like you have a lot of information to give back to your townspeople who are reaching out to you.
Okay.
One of the challenges with the public meetings is that so many people do want this indoor pool, and the financing for an indoor pool, it's
I know
big
it's higher.
It's high. So, and the really cool thing, especially, when we're at those smaller meetings like Weldona and Hill Rose and Wiggins, they mentioned it's not as hard for adults to get in, a lot of adults that are working age have some kind of transportation, so it's easier for them to, drive to a softball league in another town or drive in to Fort Morgan to use, the indoor pool and some of those other amenities, but, making sure we have the ability to have more stuff for kids in like the smaller areas and so there's gonna be programming everywhere. It's just, if it looks really funky on paper, it could, the model that we're working with is based on building, like a $24 million facility, but, so the 40 million could be over time paying back. Yeah, so we could have a work session that's just on the service plan. And I know it's very, relevant right now because we did just push out those letters to everyone to say that there was a public hearing for the service plan.
Right, and that's
Yeah.
what triggered, public hearing is gonna be held on the 25th is where I'm getting called.
Yeah, so, but this is really important, so it gives us time to do more research back with our attorneys to make sure that, we articulate it well. So, but back to, your concern about those boundaries for the board members. And this is me, and I've only been in the community for a decade. I know for me it's like, I've been here a decade, but when I talk to people who live through their lives, they're like, you are not,
Yeah.
But, I just believe that the people that we worked with on this project have the community, like the county's best interest in heart. Like when, so for this first round of elected board members, most likely it's gonna be people who are already on, our current board. Here we go. But,
So there wouldn't be an
they're
election?
not looking
or
at,
There wouldn't be an election then for the first?
it could be, it's like,
This hasn't been
it's,
decided.
it's just,
Okay.
getting people to care, cause it's a big commitment. It's for your term and, yeah. So brush, let me peek at the new, sorry, I'm looking at this email from our attorneys earlier today. So we'd have 2 seats. So yeah, you're right. Theoretically, there could be 3 if there weren't any people running, for the outside of Fort Morgan for the at-large director districts. So we've got, right now, what we're asking the judges to look at is the east half of Morgan County is 1 seat, the west half of east half, and I'll send this to you. Everyone will get their eyeballs on this, but this is fresh. I mean, we're like sprinting to make sure everything's done, so, there's new information every day. So east half of Fort Morgan, is 1 director district, and this is just what's proposed right now, to see if the judges will allow this. Then the next one is west half of Fort Morgan, and that will include Log Lane, Wiggins, Weldona, and Orchard. And then the third one, Hill Rose, Snyder, and Brush. And then 2 at-large. So, and that's to get the numbers kind of close. And there is some wiggle room there, but obviously I cannot force a judge to do a thing. So if we
No, I
have to kind of, there's so many different, hoops and different legal games that we just gotta,
Yeah. We
that we-
have, and speaking for the community, Rush just wants to know that if this thing was to go, that it would be proportionate in some way. And the numbers that I'm seeing don't look proportionate, and the members of the board, if you have 2 or 3 seats from Morgan, what is that gonna look like to this community? Not very good, because that board can ramrod anything they want through if they have the numbers. So it's gotta be proportionate, and it's gotta be equitable.
Is it, the exhibit C though, Rick, is that,
Pardon me?
exhibit C, if you go down, it's got Brush at 10 and Wiggins at 5.
Well, it depends, if you look at exhibit B and C, they conflict.
So yeah, I apologize,
And I didn't know which one's real, or which one's right.
and those numbers, we had to prepare something for that survey. And yeah, since then we've learned that Wiggins, they most likely, don't want an indoor field house as their first phase. They'd rather have
Oh,
an outdoor pool. So yeah, aquatics is just heavy. And, the big thing is, it's just programming for kids when they're out of school, even though it's not operating year round, the outdoor pool, they really wanna have that programming available for the kids. And since we know, for most of their housing developments out there, it's families.
yeah.
So, and we did wanna plan for that growth. We didn't want to, even though Wiggins is, tiny, we didn't want to box them in a plan that, even if they grew, So yeah, Wiggins is having the same conversation with us too, as far as how do we know that this is gonna be equitable?
Okay.
And, but yeah, the wrench is just that indoor pool. And
Well,
we'd throw the
Wiggins-
indoor pool
Wiggins
out
shoulda
if no one
cheered.
wanted
They
it.
got 800 people in a $10 million field, they should be cheering. I think Morgan people should be cheering. We are concerned because we're half as big as Morgan and it just doesn't look equitable right now.
So yeah, one of my
But I
first,
know, more
questions
information.
to, the legal team and to the judge is, can one of those at-large ones, instead of being at-large, could it,
Yeah,
can it be, this at-large person has to be from a small, not small, but,
Be excluded
Yeah.
for Morgan.
so,
Okay.
we could, if it's legal, let's do it. Like, I want you to feel confident that brush isn't.
I just wanted everybody to have an equal voice. You had
Mhm.
5 communities and at first it sounded like each community has a voice
Right.
and it may not turn out to be that.
And that, it like broke my heart. I was like, this was
Yeah.
so perfect. But,
But I understand
yeah.
having an equal number of electors. I
Yeah.
get where the judge is coming from there.
So
Are
I
there
think
any other-
that's a cool solution that I will float by the judge and see what we can do, cause I think that's really smart. So,
Can you define field house for me?
absolutely. Yeah, it was a newer term to me too, until a couple years ago. So it's, any of like the non-aquatic stuff, so, a basketball court that's multi-use court, that could be for volleyball or pickleball. If it's full size, then you can chop it in half and have 2 younger, kids, teams playing at the same time. Maybe weights, maybe a walking track. So at some of, we have some ideas of what people in that registered voter survey said, but since there's not a shovel in the ground, that was just to kind of get the ball rolling, but we'd have big community meetings before the engineers did a thing. So like, if that was a project in Brush in the next 10 years or 15 years, 20 years out down the road, that field house would be, some courts, weights, cardio equipment. One thing that a lot of people were excited about was rooms that were kind of multi-purpose rooms for exercise classes. When we did a tour of the the one in Milliken, so Milliken and Johnstown share a recreation district, and they use theirs during the week for all sorts of different fitness classes, but then a church rents it out on Sunday. So like, just spaces for people to be together, So yeah, everything but aquatics. But then a lot of variables within that based on what the community wants. You can have like a rock climbing wall, just dry stuff. Awesome question, yeah, I had no idea either.
Allison, a question that I had was, big question mark on the administrative side is the positions, salary. Do you guys have a document that shows executive director, what they're gonna be paid, down, all the different positions, full-time positions?
Absolutely, in the works. So we hired, so Green Play, the same organization that, did your, master plan for rec. That is one of their big jobs right now. So we were chatting on the way over here so I could have something to give you, but they're not 10. So, but what they have told me that's a certainty is that, there will be more full-time positions. So it's essentially creating a new employer that's gonna have more full-time recreation positions than currently exist within municipalities. So, and then they did a salary survey in this county, and then we connected them to some other recreation districts nearby to make sure that it was competitive. And that, so salaries would be competitive and, benefits would be comparable and all of that.
And so if, this works out, all the current employees that work for the cities are supposed to get a job with the district.
if they choose to. So
So they
it
gotta
is,
reapply for their positions, right?
they'd reapply for what they wanna do. So we absolutely wanna keep all of these rec professionals that have been working in the county still, to stay in the county because they know what they're doing. And it was really fun to hear feedback, from the community, not just Brush community, but other places in the county talk about how great they, Brush's program was because of Lance, cause Lance has had that longevity. So, the cool thing about it, if Lance wants to work for the district, is that he's not gonna have to go, leave family dinner to go unlock something because he doesn't have staff to go do it for him. Like, he's gonna have, a more formidable army of rec professionals that, so yeah, we really want Lance to apply for the director position for this district.
Is the swimming pool, our very first discussions, we talked about the swimming pool actually being off Hospital Road near the golf course. And then when the survey came out, it really didn't give anyone the option to say, would you commute from Fort Morgan to Brush for a pool? So all the data is kind of was, all you could do was vote on, yes, I'd go to Fort Morgan, but you weren't allowed to do the opposite to see if they would, if they would come to Brush as well. So is the pool totally off the table for the indoor pool center to be in Brush?
It's not off the table, because we are working with voters. It's we know for sure that for this to happen, and our group is probably not gonna do this again next year if it fails, like this, it's hard work. So for this to work, we've got to make sure that the population center is, and this, I know this is really hard to even say here, cause I know it's not fun, but yeah, if this is gonna go, we've gotta make sure we've got that 51%, and since we've got more registered voters that are in that central corridor, and also when we're talking to families, most people are driving into Fort Morgan for, Walmart and things like that, so it wasn't as much of a burden. So depending on, like, Brush could come to the table with a certain amount of, like, in-kind, depending on what kind of, package you could put together to show the district that it's gonna be better to have the indoor pool and Brush. You could absolutely do that. If, as far as land, tap fees, depending on how bulky it was, it's not off the table, but,
Has Fort Morgan already had discussions with you about the package of what they would commit financially?
we're
to
at the
pool?
beginning stages since they're working with engineers on the dry side. So the big thing, because we're so conscious about taxpayer dollars, because, we wanna respect the taxpayer, is Fort Morgan on their own is going to build all the dry stuff in Fort Morgan. So, to have kind of, that ideal rec center where you've got everything together, they're already gonna build all that on their own, and so we just tack on, the aquatics, they'll commit to, like the parking lot, and we know how horribly expensive parking lots are and things like that, so, that wouldn't be Brush having to use your taxpayer dollars for, for those incentives like the tap fees and stuff, we wouldn't have to worry about that. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's off the table, it's gonna be a lot harder for me to pass this, and we know the last time anything close to this that was put on the ballot was 15 years ago, and, the facility was only $8 million, and it was a pie in the sky, like really cool rec center. That same facility today would be close to 30 million. And that's just 15 years, so the price of or the rate of inflation is always gonna be lower than the rate of construction costs. So we know every year we wait is gonna cost taxpayers more as well. So I think the big hiccups right now are to figure out how to make it equitable, how to make sure those voting seats are gonna be really representative, so, so my first questions to the judge and the
Okay.
lawyers are to be, how can we make sure that those at-large ones, aren't open?
Yeah, feel like they have an equal seat at the table.
And it's a big, complex project, and I'm really grateful that you're even willing to listen to us, because I know, just like you said, you've got some concerns, and we do too, and we're, doing our best.
Let me ask you this, right now the proposal is for, 0.75% countywide increase in tax.
Correct.
Sales
Someone-
tax.
Sales tax. Someone asked me, they said the document was showing that for the first year, there would be no mill levy assessed at $0. Are property taxes off the table?
Yes. Unless in like 20 years, 40 years, you know, we're creating this
Okay.
vehicle that will exist over time, not just for this first round of projects. But theoretically,
Theoretically, it could change over
Theoretically,
time,
yeah.
but,
but they would have to go back to the voters. There's no way that they could.
oh, right,
Yeah.
right.
So, we're planning on this 0.75% model right now because that's what the county commissioners would approve.
Okay.
Up to this point, we'll see what they say on the
Yeah.
25th. 25th is a really pivotal night for, the organization and, but yeah, in 20 years, they could say, we want to build, a high ropes course in Brush. We really want a high ropes course because, like, you know, we can rent it out to, I don't know, that's not a really big project though. Anyway, something insane and cool
Yeah.
that the county really wants, so they could go back to voters and ask for a mill levy increase then.
So that's why it's still included in the document, okay. But there's no plans at this time.
No.
And that's what I indicated to them. My thinking was that the opinion surveys, actually, one of the opinion surveys, the numbers that you had on there actually indicated a higher percentage of people that would vote yes for property tax increase versus sales tax, but I don't believe that.
That's, yeah,
All right.
so yeah, super unusual, but I think a lot of the people who sent back the responses were just so hungry and
I think
excited
so
for
too.
rec that they're
I
like,
think you're right.
however this can pass, let's do it.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
I wanna make a couple points.
Yes, sir.
This is a special district, and it is a unique form of local government. It's not a municipality, it's not a county, it's in between. The rules for creating the district are unique too, and that's what those service plans are. So it goes to the commissioners for that board's blessing. If the board approves it, then there's the first election, and that is, should the special district be created?
Yes.
Majority of the voters casting ballots determines the yes or no. The voting qualifications of this. You vote as a landowner. So even though I reside in Greeley and own land in the county, I'm an eligible voter.
You are?
I am. Because I own land. And that would apply to the second election, which is the debt question. And combined with the revenue question. Raising the sales tax to service the debt. And then probably de-bruising that revenue
Right.
stream from the sales tax. Again, property owners, non-resident property owners have the opportunity to vote in that election. And that's the unique feature about the special districts, whether it's recreation or water or sanitation or whatever. I don't really know how it's gonna work in this situation, where they're saying that the boundaries of the district are consistent with the county lines, but excluded from that is any parcel of land that's zoned as ag and used ag of 40 acres or more.
Right, I found that interesting.
So that tells me that all of those people are not eligible.
That was gonna be my question, did those people vote on it?
I don't know, I don't know the answer to it, that's something for Collins or whatever the
Okay.
the answer, but,
Yeah.
but that's the way I would read the proposal. So it becomes largely, in my mind, a municipal question. Because that's where the bulk of the eligible landowners and registered voters reside.
Right.
Those are my thoughts. The idea of two qualifications to vote, registered
Any other questions?
So does that mean the selection that you're trying to get on the ballot for this public hearing, is that specifically to create the district?
That's the first
Yeah.
election is to
So it
create
won't
the
have
district.
anything to do with sales tax?
Nothing to do with sales.
On the 25th. The 25th, the county commissioners, will hear from the public about if we should, move forward with accepting the service plan. And then we have a lot of stuff to do after that to get ready for the ballot. But then, yeah, we'll have 4 ballot questions, like he mentioned. The first one is just, yes, we wanna create it. And then, yeah, the financing piece, the debrucing piece, and then, what's for my,
Was it debt, you said debt service?
Didn't that, also didn't, Thompson River, when they passed theirs, they passed the rec district question, but they didn't pass the debt.
Oh,
So they
yeah.
were,
we waited.
yeah, they had to wait, and they basically got their rec center through all donations.
Oh, okay.
They're usually 2 separate elections, I think you just have to do it at the same time. Normally they're 2 separate elections.
We wanna honor your time. Let's just talk about brush. So, slide 20, I just, copied some different pieces from the presentation that was given to you from Green Play about the results from your own recreation master plan, and see how, like, if you can see some areas where a recreation district would
Yeah.
help you with all of your goals. The most important document of my life that I helped create is the one that's rec district, the Waya rec district, and I think that was in your packets.
Yeah.
Because it was a new concept to me. I've kind of had heard of fire protection districts and some of those before, but once we've dug really deep into the research on recreation districts and what it does for especially rural communities, it just sold me really instantly. And then when we did our site visits to other rural rec districts to hear how they're collaborating with more than one municipality, and especially for what it does for those, like, yeah, those are ag families that live in unincorporated county that don't have, they absolutely have no voice right now in recreation. So how it just, there's so many winners in this scenario. That's why I'm so excited about it. So, slide 20 just talks about the strengths and weaknesses for on-site engagement. So mine is absolutely too tiny to read, but the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so next 9 slides. I'm so glad we had that dialogue about the concerns you've had, especially from those phone calls. But just on your own, if you want to kind of read through those different things and see how partnering with Recreation District would be able to push, brush all of your plans, and especially help fix some of those, like, financing things and understaffed pieces. We know Lance works his tail off all year round to make sure that the families in your community are served, and adults. And so something like this, where it's a big bucket and we've got more personnel and way more resources, it's just gonna make sure that someone who's as capable in recreation as Lance and Verna, that they're, they have the resources they need. And that's another thing as far as some, having people who live in Brush work for the district is also gonna be another great asset to make sure that, Brush isn't left out. So I'm just gonna, trying to think what's the most relevant topic for you guys, between organizational strengths and weaknesses, facilities, programs, future facilities? What do you wanna chat about as far as for Brush? Cause we can just, go over, we talked a little about what a rec district was. We can spend a little bit more time on that and just end with kind of our next steps. Would that be okay with?
So normally in these situations, the communities then, the cities, municipalities, we have 0 recreation staff anymore, and then the district picks up all of those, right?
Yes, so on your payroll, when you're crunching out your budgets, you will not have to pay, for rec staff.
And what about all the fields, field houses, golf courses? Is there any maintenance money or O&M funds from the district to help cover those costs?
There absolutely could be. So the that first budget that we're gonna get from Greenplay that kind of goes over salaries and retirement, you know, just all the really nitty gritties. That's gonna be kind of our starting point as far as what money is allocated where. So as far as O&M for golf courses, that one's gonna be a hard sell.
Yeah, I think that service plan kind of carved that out, and I think you're right.
So,
I think it would be a hard sell.
But the really cool thing about adding the district as a partner, so they're gonna work closely with the city on some cool events, you know, so maybe you still have someone on staff who's, I'm trying to think of your org structure, do you have someone who's kind of, we've got economic development that's outside of the city, so your economic development / your chamber of commerce, so they're gonna be really natural partners for this rec district to be like, okay, what killer races can we continue in Brush, what can we add? So on that side as far as special events, so that's a really natural partnership with the cities. But, cause right now Lance is doing most of the special events, is that correct?
Yep.
So that's one area, so it's gonna be, it'll probably take, you know, a solid 5 years to really iron some things out and figure, what staff on the district is doing what to support, you know, which towns, so.
Is there any possibilities, like if we're a little more creative and rather a field house that like renovating like a central school into a cultural center, something like that,
Yeah.
cultural arts, things like that?
So what will probably happen, so once we kind of clean up those numbers in the service plan as far as that breakdown, what Greenplay assessed for the rehab of your outdoor pool was about $5.5 million, which isn't the full bucket for the first project. So, and we gotta think long-term too. So if we did want, cause we know how dire the situation is for the outdoor pool here. So if we could, that could be the first project for Brush, and then the rest of that money, we're building it and we're getting some more partners for the cultural center, and that's, the rest of that bucket is used for, Old Central School. Is that what it's called, Old Central School?
Yes.
The one right, the kitty corner from the library, okay. I know you have some amazing community members who want to renovate it, and they've got, they have their own kind of coalition, right?
Yeah, she's right back there.
Yeah, so.
They can be turned into kind of a rec center, like.
So like a teen hangout place, so it could be an indoor facility, it's just not gonna have the indoor pool.
Better pool
Yeah.
get renovated.
Yeah, so outdoor pool would be, based on both the public meetings, I mean, everything, for the city of Brush, you guys have an advantage because you, prioritized some funding for your recreation, master plan. So you have all that data, and that shows a lot of the things that the community wants. So, and that's really critical for funding. And I play the grant writing game like an animal. Like, I am a really aggressive grant writer, and so I know what these funders want to see and they have to see to select Brush as a city. So since you guys did that, that's a big deal. So yeah, super applause for you guys for making sure that you got the matching funds, to make sure that happened. But in that document, plus our needs assessment, plus the survey shows that Brush really wants to maintain their outdoor pool. Like, that's a really important thing. So, we'd want that to be the first project, yeah?
Where are the offices gonna be for the director of the district, conference rooms, things like that?
We don't know yet. So, and since we're not going to have an indoor facility right away in any of, you know, like, we're not gonna have something, like, once voters say yes, we're not gonna be able to say magic wand, so theoretically we could, we're gonna have some pretty gnarly IJs anyway for this district, but we could have, different stuff in any of the cities right now, cause we just work out of city offices, or, eventually the armory is either gonna be bulldozed or donated, you know, so the armory's not around forever, but we do have to operate somewhere while, things are being built, so.
See, I wonder if it says a little bit about how people think when you said, you know, this indoor aquatics year round. Well, one of the things Wiggins wants right away is a pool. Right? They want a pool in Wiggins. And how do Morgan residents feel about what to do with your outdoor pool when you get your indoor pool? You have both, or
We've had some dialogue about that because we don't wanna duplicate services everywhere.
That's what, yeah,
And
that's
we
what I
would
get at.
love for
Take
brush,
away from
one of our big
everybody's-
ideas is to have special things in Wiggins and special things in Brush
Yeah.
to draw more population out there. So I think eventually Fort Morgan, and this is, I might get killed for this. Don't put this in the paper, Kara. But that it's just all filled in, like the outdoor pool in Fort Morgan, that there isn't an outdoor pool there. Like maybe a splash feature and we find someone else to fund it, but like the district won't fund 3 outdoor pools because it'll be, redundant to have in Fort Morgan if we had another pool, so.
And it just really depends on how willing people are to migrate.
Oh, and people, yeah, people are willing to migrate. We talk to people that, well, even some of my neighborhood friends, they love some of the programs that are only in Brush. And so they're super happy to come. People travel for rec. People love rec. It's what brings them together. It's how they meet their friends. Not just the kids, but like the parents.
Then build it in Brush.
So, but one of my dreams for the first project in Brush for renovating the outdoor pool, so
Yeah.
I'm at your outdoor pool at least twice a week. And if that's the outdoor pool, cause we wanna totally trip it out, you know, we want it to be, and since it's only operating for, you know,
Yeah.
a chunk of the year, it's not gonna be as hard on the O&M side. So, and Green Play is crunching numbers for us to make sure, yeah, we can, cover the costs of the seasonal staff, you know, but, I mean, Brush can be buzzing in the summer because it's gonna have the best outdoor summer pool. You know, so then your local businesses, okay, what can we plan around these 3 months for, you know, I mean, restaurants. I mean, we come, I get killed for this too, Kara, don't put this in, but, the services at your library district here are awesome. Like, I drive to the library here, even though there's one less than a mile. Like, we'll bike to the library in Fort Morgan from my house, we play at the park, we don't necessarily use the library services. But guess what I do when I come to your library? We go to Wendy's, like, we spend money in Brush, because there's stuff here that we like. So, we've been working with, Morgan County Economic Development to, like, how can we, drive traffic within the county. So making special stuff in different places so that, as a driver, so. Yeah, Kara, don't tell anyone. No, it's okay, it's public.
My last comment was gonna be is, Lance and I've had a number of discussions about this, but just so it's very transparent, you know, what information Fort Morgan's getting, what Wiggins is getting. We really feel there needs to be a meeting between the city administrators or managers.
Oh, absolutely,
of
yes.
each
Should we call it a summit?
with-
Should we?
we call it a summit.
Rec summit.
But, you know, also having the recreation director or community development directors of each that are key people involved, just so all the more technical questions on the
Yeah.
financing and everything, so that we have the ability to advise our, prospective councils on what we feel would actually work.
Mhm.
That way, no one's thinking, well, this discussion's going on with them, they're being
Right.
promised this, they're getting promised this, and someone's promised something else. And
That's
also,
super important.
we might be able to, at an administrative level, come up with something that may be more equitable, that we could present to our councils, that we might not get a full pool, but we get this, and maybe some additional maintenance money for facilities, things like
Right.
that. But we need to have, those discussions, hopefully before the 25th.
Let's make it happen. So one thing that I want all the elected officials here to know that, we CC all of our board, like some of the really dumb stuff that I send out to all the board members, I don't include, Monty and Lance, but like an exhaustive amount of our board communication, especially our meetings, we make sure that they're looped in. So we, from the very beginning, we didn't wanna make sure that there was, this town gets this information. So yeah, Monty, thanks for bringing that up. So, that'll be another follow-up email that will get this going so we can have some really good discussion. Cause yeah, we want this to serve everyone really well, not just, I'm in the health field and I just know that recreation is really good for people, emotional health and physical health, but, the more I learn, I realize economic development and recreation are like this, like they're really tied together. When we talk to primary employers, what do they want? They want higher quality of life here so that their employees want to stay. So, it's, yeah, it's a really important project. So, so some of these other ones, so yeah, I won't go through, I think the last, so we already kind of talked about these next steps. It was really fun for me. I've reread your master plan a couple times, but I reread it in preparation for tonight. And it just was so many light bulbs as far as how this rec district will be a big benefit for Brush. And one thing that I want to note for elected officials is that there will definitely be some brush-specific projects always, and then if you already have some local funders for recreation projects, and they're just gonna be another partner at the table with the rec district. So if you're trying to build funds for the Central School. Why do I not think it's called Central School? It is Central. Like, so the Central School project is a really good example of this, is that the rec district, because you know, arts and crafts and those types of things are definitely recreation. So, the rec district is a partner. So the rec district, you know, we say, okay, we need, this amount of this initial funding bucket needs to go for this project, but then we're gonna get matching funds from this foundation and this foundation, and then we go out for grants from a Colorado foundation, and you know, it's, as we pull these resources, it's gonna happen way faster than it ever would when Brush just doing it on their own. Cause we want some help for you. Yeah.
So we wouldn't lose funding from the district because we had building of our own.
No. Yeah.
Still get our own
Mhm.
percentage of the budget.
So there's gonna, that's why, yeah, having these, someone who represents Brush on the board, and then, just having a super good working relationship with the city of Brush. And we, yeah, had some good conversations, Lance, when we were talking with the directors of, Eden Area Recreation and Milliken, but I felt like they've got a good working relationship with those towns. But, yeah, the goal is, yeah, we're all playing in the same sandbox. So, as you pursue independent, well, not independent, but, you know, brush-specific projects that are recreation, that we have something set in place that, the district is a partner. So not with the small stuff, but with the big stuff as well. And that just comes down to how we split that pie with the 0.75 sales tax. So yeah, and I don't know what the perfect solution is for that right now. I don't know if we're gonna find a perfect one, but we're gonna find one that's just feels right, as far as that's better, for the facilities side. So I think we're at like the perfect spot to end. You guys are ready to move on to other really important things for your town. So I guess our big ask tonight is just hang with us, and as we work together some of these details with you know, the financing side, and with our attorneys, and with the judge, and see what kind of flexibility there is in there. But if we get 3 no's on the 25th of June, I won't, you know, I might come say hi to you, but I'm not gonna come back here, like, that's done, like, this project is done. So that initial 5.5 million that we're so excited to give to Brush for that outdoor pool, that's gone, you know, so like, I can't guarantee this is gonna be a perfect project. I can guarantee you I'm gonna work my butt off to make sure Brush is represented, but if we have no's from the county commissioners because whatever, you know, people are scared, and there is a lot of fear, but it's scary because no one's done it before. It's a very, yeah. So I won't be back here. Not because I don't like you, but just
Just don't come to the school no weather.
yes. I'll still come to Wendy's no matter what. But yeah, it'll be, for me personally, it'll be tragic, because it is to reach the kids I want to reach with recreation. I can't do it alone. Like, I need all of you at the table, and I need that service plan to be approved. So, but I'll get back to you, Mayor, about what kind of flexibility there is in the service plan, and at the public meeting on the 25th, we'll be able to, I don't know what the amendment process looks like, or if there's certain things that we need to refine, and the commissioners can definitely do a provisional, like, this is approved pending, you know, these things are adapted.
Okay.
And we'll get going on that. big summit for all the town managers and recreation, just get all the right people in the room to make sure everyone's still talking. We have we've had 2 meetings with the recreation professionals in the county, but as far as having like town managers and them, we have not done that.
Okay.
So it's hard to get schedules lined, but we were up. Yeah, so I'll set a date. And who manages your schedule, Monty? Do you have?
Just myself and Andrea.
Okay, so we'll get that going. And then our big ask is in the future, at a meeting, if you could formally give your blessing to Morgan Strong. Yeah, a resolution as the Board of Elected Officials say, yes, we wanna see this through to the end. And, yeah, that's all we got for you. But yeah, we're really grateful for the time and thanks for being flexible. And thanks, Andrea, for getting all the information to your board members.
Thank you for your presentation.
And if anyone didn't receive the survey in the mail, I did bring 2, if you're curious, if you wanted a hard copy. So,
Oh,
does anyone want a hard copy? Okay, cool. Great. Well, thanks again, and thanks for lending Aaron and having such a good community that Aaron sticks around and saves
Okay.
people's lives at the hospital.
all right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, moving on to staff reports. Chief Boss.
Thank you. Good evening. I will try to be brief. Just a few things that are going on in our world. Over the last month, we've seen a fairly dramatic increase in suspects running from the police, both on foot and vehicles, a lot more resisting arrests. We've not tracked statistics on this before, so we're trying to kind of go back and figure out how much of an increase this is. But it's definitely harder for the officers from a safety standpoint and whatnot. So I just want to bring that to your attention. The guys are out on the streets, definitely working hard every day, putting their lives on the line literally. We had a pursuit right at a month ago, I think. It was actually after the last city council meeting. We assisted the county with a chase of a suspect driving the wrong way on the interstate, deliberately trying to get in accidents. He ultimately collided with one of the deputies very deliberately. So just an example of what's going on out there to make you guys aware. Along with that, a study was just released late last week on auto theft in Colorado. Eastern Colorado from New Mexico up to Wyoming, to Kansas, and basically just shy of the Front Range, has seen an 8.2% increase in auto theft. 44% of those are out of the Fort Morgan area. Almost 50 are out of Morgan County. We also are struggling with that, and most of that we believe is directly connected to drug sales and distribution. We're seeing thefts and trading stolen goods such as cars in exchange for drugs because people don't have money. So just some kind of disturbing statistics that are coming out, but also a good reminder, lock your cars, don't leave your keys in your cars. That's most of the thefts are of convenience. Bad guys see keys in the car and they take the car. It's not hot wiring or breaking into cars. So just a public safety thing there. And then the last thing is we're gearing up for the 4th of July. We are somehow got stuck planning the city's float. So if you're not pleased, I apologize in advance, but Matt's doing a great job. And I'm supporting him silently. But no, we are happy and excited for the 4th of July, and it looks like a good year. So
All right, thanks, Chief.
New staff members,
Community Service Director, Lance, do you have anything?
I'll keep it real short.
Okay.
There's a lot of recreation there.
Yeah, I know.
We're kind of getting into our busy time of the year. We, this past week, unfortunately, Relay for Life tried to run their event out of the park, and of course, right when they got started, the storm hit, so it kind of with a damper on it, but I think it's going to be a great location for the future, and hopefully they come back. We had our, we supported the high school in their first, their inaugural golf tournament, helped support athletics around Brush, and I thought it went really well. I think they made some good money for the athletic programs. This coming week, the Ebenezer golf tournament will be happening out at the golf course on Friday, and they usually have a full set of teams. And then this weekend, we're also bringing in 30 teams for a youth baseball tournament, the Summer Sizzler. That'll be happening also in the weekend. We're using the fields in Fort Morgan, Brush, and Akron for those. And then the following week will be our Brad Enoch softball tournament, our 23rd annual for that, and our 37th annual Brush Rush will be held on that same day. So, and we have a over 50 under 50 golf tournament that weekend. So, a lot going on these next couple weeks and everything. And swimming lessons started today, so a lot of things happening. So we'll be pretty busy. So,
Okay, thank you, Larry. That's the greatest intern, Matt.
Actually, I had an update today.
All right.
Just rare, but it was more impromptu. I just want to say thanks to council for approving the incentives for Central School. It's been a bit of my project, or like big project that I've been working on with the Central School Crusaders. I've been leading the RFP process, and with the approval of these incentives, I'm sure Melody's really happy to finally do this. We'll be releasing the RFP this week, so I'm really hoping we get some great responses back and get the ball rolling on Central School in a quick way. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. City Clerk, Andrew.
We'll be gearing up for our November election, and our candidate petition has that timeline of 20-some days to petition for council members that will have an open seat in Ward 22. So you might be thinking of those people who might be interested, and I'll be pushing out links and everything to be as easy as
Okay.
a reminder.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Dale. You waited this long and you didn't call on me.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Just that our crews are out doing trees and potholes, and we can't be everywhere all at once, but if you find something, please just let the front desk know so we can at least get it on our list to look at. As it relates to transportation, the state, CDOT specifically, is updating their 2045 plan, and so they're asking for a lot of input from the municipalities that belong to the Upper Front Range planning region. You can also go out online and put your 2 cents in, let the commission know what you think your priorities would be as well. So it's on the CDOT website, you can get out there and do that. But we'll be working closely with CDOT here in the near future to get this developed. And then, other than that, just really, glass recycling is coming to Brush.
Yay.
So,
That's good. All right, thank you, Dale.
yes,
Is there any plans for
we can. We can. You're talking about the full length?
Yeah, right there by Hospital Road.
Okay.
Daughter to school and people just and it's the sun's in their eyes, it's hard to tell where you're
We'll get a work order put in.
Slide
We'll probably have to bid that out. That's something that our crews don't do specifically. So we'll have to actually contract that work out.
There's our special sprayer for the line that goes straight. One year we did a project.
It's horrible. Exactly. So we'll contract that work out. Okay.
Thanks. Thank you, Dale. City Administrator. Well, geez, I'm messing up. It has been a long night. Make it quick.
Yes, sir, I'm done.
Tyler Purvis.
Just one item is that we did hire a building inspector, that new position that the city
Yes.
created, Randy Metlin, and he started today. So we're excited to have that additional support in the community youth development office, and we're looking forward to some positive things out of that, and him.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. City Administrator Monty.
Okay, most of my items are on the work session, but the one I want to bring to your attention was, there is, a letter that was put at your seats, from Western Engineering Consultants. This is, a letter.
Yeah, I did.
At the next work session, we're gonna go over this a little bit. But with CLP, or the land processors, they're part of the subdivision process, and the agreement is they're building the industrial type road and putting out infrastructure into the Brush Agribusiness Park. And we have not agreed to share the cost with them, except what we did, provide some incentives, which the council really approved those. It's rather expensive putting in streets, lighting, electricity, and everything else that they have to do. So, they have asked us, and the city in the past has said that we would consider, not that we would, some type of a reimbursement. And so this is a letter of theirs requesting the reimbursement. I visited with the mayor about it a little bit. But I think what I would like to do is at the next council meeting, have this on the work session so we can kind of go through it. One of the things that I did ask them, or they had asked me about, was if we did not decide to go with the reimbursement, would we consider selling the rest of the acreage out there? And that's the very last sentence on the front page, if we consider that. And so that's gonna be one of those questions at the next meeting that we'll be asking you guys about, as an option. But then that, of course, would take control over it, the ability for us to, market it and sell it, which part of our master plan was we wanted to make those commercial lots up there. Last thing we want to do is have them sit there idle. So the price tag that's on is really important for us to consider too. We don't want to price it so, the property so high that it doesn't move, or if we sell the property and the new, owners of the property pricing it out of the market. So something to think about, and we'll go in more detail at the next meeting. The rest of my reports are gonna be part of the work session.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I learned from Bonnie this morning that Joanne was at the Moody Hospital, so I went right up there to visit, and she looked just spirits well, sitting in a chair, moving, and told me that she had medical alert, all the equipment she was using.
Yeah, I was able to talk to the doctor before they flew her out at the hospital, and she got there very early, and she said it helped a whole
Yeah.
lot on her problem.
But I was really pleased to see her, see her work.
Thank you, Bob. Any other council reports?
Well, I went to the museum board meeting, I can't really know what we do. But they do a great job.
But you did go.
I did go, and they do such a great job.
You can note that as a senior moment.
Yeah, right. I love it.
All right.
I'm trying to recall, I thought, let's see what they, anyway, I just know they just do a good job.
Yeah, they have history camp coming
Yeah.
up pretty soon,
Yeah.
don't they? All right.
Did something.
Heath, you wanna tell us about Aruba?
Go if you can.
It was nice. Okay.
I didn't wanna come back.
Okay. All right, well, we have a pretty healthy work session, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, we are adjourned and we'll move into our work session.